Mr. E.T. Mensah, Malam Yaya, Papa Owusu Ankoma, Mr. Osei Kweku of blessed memory, Mr. Kwejo Bauredu of blessed memory, Yao Osafumafo, Honorable Dominic Fobi, Mohammed Mubarak Muntaka, Rashid Pelpo, Ekwia Sena Danswa, Clement Kofi Humado, Elvis Afriye Ankra, Mahama Ayariga, Dr. Mustafa Ahmed, Nilante van der Poy, and now Honorable Isaac Kwame Siama. Between 1993 and now, we've had all these ministers serve at the Youth and Sports Ministry. Of course, not all of them have had smooth exits, giving the Youth and Sports Ministry a tag of a rough ground, a very tough terrain to operate in. If the story had gone a certain way, we probably wouldn't have seen Pius Hajide serve again. He would have lost his position. So, what is it at the sports ministry that always brings up these issues and and puts people in trouble? What is it there at the sports ministry? Well, we'll go into Honorable Pius Enam Hajide's story, what he went through during that period, and other major things affecting the sports sector right here on Joy 99.7 FM. But of course, we're looking forward to the official start of the season in England. And of course, remember, with our partners, the BBC will bring you unrivaled coverage. We'll be bringing you some live commentary in conjunction with our partners, the BBC, live from the venues. You hardly get that anywhere else. And of course, ahead of that, remember, the Community Shield starts off the season. There have been some good movements as well as we build up to the wrap-up of the summer transfer window. And so George Addo Jr. does this chat as usual with our partners, the BBC.
Thanks, Rob, for your time this weekend, and there's no better place to begin than transfers with time running out for EPL clubs. Just how much pressure do these clubs have to deal with?
Oh, so much pressure, isn't it now? Especially because the transfer window closing date has been brought forward ahead of the start of the new season, of course. And now with the World Cup as well, which always naturally delays transfer dealings because players are obviously away from their clubs, away from their representatives and playing for their national teams. We see a flurry, in the last few weeks or so. I think we've seen some suggestions that things are going to really kick off, but I've got a feeling that in the next 6 days we could really have somewhat of a unprecedented number of transfers all kind of brimming to the boil. I think a couple of big names are still yet to make their moves, and I think it'll somewhat have a domino effect on some other clubs and some other dealings. So pressure really is on, I think, more so for the clubs in the lower reaches of the Premier League who are looking to kind of get those players over the line that could make all the difference in terms of staying in the division. But when it comes to the top teams, I think we've seen a lot of clubs kind of make their statements early with recruiting players, some before Russia 2018. But now we lay in an area where, the likes of Chelsea and Manchester United, I think, certainly are still looking to do business. And that makes for a very intriguing last 6 days.
Rob, let's talk Juventus, who seem to be the favourites for next year's UEFA Champions League. Even before we kick a ball, via their signings, Bonucci is the next big one after Cristiano Ronaldo. What kind of impact would he have?
Well, Leonardo Bonucci returning to Turin just 12 months after leaving them for Milan. I think he'll return with the tail between his legs somewhat. This is a player who fell out with Max Allegri at Juventus before making that move. He's realised that to some degree the grass isn't greener away from the Allianz Stadium, but Bonucci is a fantastic defender, one of the world's best, and he can then kind of re-establish this partnership with Giorgio Chiellini, which of course made Juventus such a difficult nut to crack, and genuine Champions League contenders. And now they have the man who wins Champions Leagues like nobody else, Cristiano Ronaldo, at the top of their team. So I think you're right in regards to saying that Juventus probably are the favourites for the Champions League this time around. They've clearly made an impact and made statements in the window to to bring in players specifically for that purpose. Whether they can kind of carry it out and follow through and achieve that goal, we'll have to wait and see. But Bonucci will certainly help to strengthen that defence in the way that he did when he was at Juventus first time around.
Rob, still with transfers, but a bit of Ghanaian interest right now. And how is Jordan Ayew's move from Swansea City to Crystal Palace shaping up at the moment?
Well, my understanding is that he's having a medical, so I think we're close on this one. You know, I think Ayew's move to Palace would essentially provide a little bit of backup for their wingers that they have there already, the likes of Andros Townsend and of course Wilfried Zaha. There are reports this morning here in England that Zaha is rejecting a new contract at Palace and is set for a big money switch to Chelsea. Now, I should stress these are only newspaper reports at this stage, you know, yet to get any confirmation from the club or anything like that. But it is a move that I think would fit. You know, Sarri is the kind of manager who likes quick, dynamic wingers, and Zaha certainly is one of those. So we'll have to wait and see whether Jordan Ayew is providing backup for Crystal Palace's top forward players, or whether he's essentially being brought in to replace them.
Rob, can we talk about the key imminent deals to keep our eyes on this weekend?
A couple of high-profile moves in Europe actually looking like they could be going through this weekend. Axel Witsel, the Belgium midfielder, looks set for a move to Borussia Dortmund. He currently plays in China. Also, Nikola Kalinic, the Milan player, Atletico Madrid, extremely interested in him. And here's a really interesting one that we're just starting to hear bubbling under the surface. Arturo Vidal, the Chilean Bayern Munich midfielder, looks like he could be moving to Barcelona. So we'll have to wait and see if that one comes through. In terms of some other moves, as I mentioned, it looks as if there might be a little bit of a battle on the hands for Wilfried Zaha's services, the Crystal Palace winger, with Chelsea very much interested there. And also, we're certainly hearing that Jerome Boateng is up for sale from Bayern Munich, so they're certainly kind of looking for suitors there. Manchester United in the market for a defender. They're looking at Barcelona defender Yerry Mina, the Colombia defender who had a very good World Cup. So we'll have to see maybe if they get that one over the line. Might stifle a move for Jerome Boateng, but he is very much up for sale by the German champions.
Finally, the new season is upon us with the Community Shield between Chelsea and Manchester City to come later on Sunday. What are your expectations?
Well, I think this game comes a little bit too early to see the best out of both sides, especially Chelsea, who I think will have a difficult task this season to see Sarri fully implement his style of play. It will be a complete gear change to the way that Antonio Conte played his football at Stamford Bridge. But it will be exciting and intriguing to see nonetheless. I expect Manchester City to pretty much pick up from where they left off last season, although they're without a couple of players back to full match fitness from the World Cup. But it'll be interesting to see, I think, Algerian winger, of course, Riyad Mahrez take to the field. We're expecting for Manchester City their club record signing, their only signing in the window. He's expected to play in this Community Shield match against Chelsea at Wembley. A bit of an interesting marker always between the two sides. The Premier League winners and the FA Cup holders, of course, happens every year. We've seen Arsenal beat the likes of Chelsea, for example, to lift the Community Shield in recent years. So it can happen, upsets can happen, but I expect Manchester City to start their season by winning the first domestic trophy of the campaign on Sunday.
John Bennett of the BBC and George Addo Jr. doing some analysis ahead of the start of the season. It starts officially from tomorrow with the Community Shield. Let's see how all of it goes for Chelsea and Manchester City. But for now, we'll think about issues here at home. Of course, in boxing, Ghanaian names are dominating the headlines internationally, with Isaac Dogbe addressing his first news conference ahead of his world title defense, his very first defense of the WBO Africa title. Sorry, the WBO Super Bantamweight world title in the US on August 25. Of course, Richard Comey is also getting himself ready for a warm-up fight later today in the United States of America. Would get to hear from him. Remember, the International Boxing Federation has ordered the champion, Mikey Garcia, to fight Richard Comey. Whether he decides to go ahead with it or decides to relinquish the title, Comey will definitely be a winner in terms of getting the chance to fight for that world title finally. We hear from him. All of this is later on. That's the reason why you have to be here with us on the show on Joy 99.7 FM. We say hello to all of our friends who are joining us online on the Joy FM Facebook wall. Remember, your thoughts are also welcome. 0244340437 as we host the reinstated Deputy Youth and Sports Minister Pius Enam Hajida. Remember that our girls are also playing in France. They start off their FIFA World Cup campaign against the host France. We take a look at their chances later on in the show. That's why we have to be your friend when it comes to sport every time during the weekend. Thank you very much, Efo. Pius Enam Hajida. I hope I pronounced the surname correctly.
Yes, you did. You got it right.
Yeah,
One of the few to have gotten it at first try.
Thank you very much for making the time. And we'd also like to say a very big thank you to our friends at the Sports Writers Association of Ghana. We had to, cut into a very important meeting that you had with them to be here. Let's talk about the scandal to start off this conversation. You were here, you were put in charge of a committee to ensure our participation, a successful one at that, in the Commonwealth Games. Work was done, and then just before the start of the multi-sport event, an international embarrassment. People go and fake identity as journalists, and they try to get themselves visas to get entry into Australia, and it becomes a whole big problem and a nuisance. When did you get to hear about this case for the very first time, and what was your reaction?
Well, thank you very much, Nat, for having me here. It's a pleasure to be here. You're very much celebrated Sports Link on Joy. I'm excited to be here. You can just introduce me now as Deputy Minister. You don't have to stay that reinstated. Deputy Minister is just fine. But I bring you the warm regards of the Honourable Minister and my colleagues with whom I work at the Ministry. And we are all excited about the kind of programming that you do here. You give us top-notch information, you give us good entertainment, and you educate us. And so we appreciate you very, very well.
We appreciate your comments as well. We continue to work hard. Thank you.
To answer your question more directly, I think I heard of this over the radio when allegations were being bundled about. This was in the middle, I think on the eve of the Easter celebrations. So I was with my family in my village in the Volta region when news broke, and I heard on the radio. And it was unfortunate because not, as you will know, and this has been confirmed by all watchers of sports in Ghana, we had a very decent and beautiful package. For the longest of time in our history, people had not seen the kind of preparations that we had put in. The International Games Committee came alive in the middle of November in 2017. This was just about some 4 or 5 months to the main games in Australia. But within that short time, we were able to have approximately about 3 months intensive preparation. We had a 3-phased preparations approach. We first of all had the non-residential local campaign, which meant that, and we facilitated it. We gave some funding from it, from the ministry, for athletes to leave their various houses, go and train in their various facilities, their own facilities of their choice, and then go back home. This lasted for about a month. And then we did residential local camping, which now means that we took all the athletes, we put them in camp for about a month. I recall that athletics were camping in Cape Coast. I know that the Black Bombers, our national boxing team, was also camping in Cape Coast. The national hockey team that we were representing was camping at the Theodosia Oku Hockey Arena. Badminton was camped in Tema, etc., etc. We had that for another month, approximately. And then, getting close to the main games, we moved the entire contingent into Australia. We thought we should do that because we needed the team to acclimatize to the weather. conditions to even the food patterns. And so we had what we call the pre-games in Australia itself. This was for about another 1 month. And the athletes themselves, the officials, they admitted, it's on record, that for a very long time, that kind of elaborate preparation had not happened. Athletes were shocked. We, even here locally, we did a lot of anti-doping education and testing. And anti-doping testing is very expensive, but we didn't want any embarrassment, and so we didn't leave any stone unturned. We did serious, even education on.
Did your anti-doping, testing get any people? Did they catch any?
No, it did not catch anybody. All our athletes were
clean.
Were very clean.
I see.
Not just the anti-doping, we actually did a full body check. And so we checked every athlete. We wanted to be sure that,
especially in these days when we talk about hormonal imbalances, which make people, doubt your sex and all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so we had to be sure. And again, even their own dietary conditions, we had to bring in dietitians to begin to teach our athletes what diet they should be navigating towards as the game is getting close. And so we did a lot of things that the athletes and officials appreciated. Unfortunately, this unfortunate, occurrence about this visa thing rather came to make nonsense of all the hard work that we had put into preparing our team for Australia. But this is how the whole thing worked, as far as I'm concerned. The selection of these athletes began long ago. Long before I became Deputy Minister, long before I became Chairman of the International Games Committee, work had started on Ghana's participation. People had started doing the qualifications. People actually even qualified. The number of athletes were determined already before I became Deputy Minister and Chairman of the International Games Committee. The number of disciplines that we were going to participate in had been decided already. We knew already that we were going to present 12 athletes. In fact, if you check, the official launching of Ghana's participation in the Commonwealth Games, which preceded my becoming Chairman of the International Games Committee, had all this announced already, that we were presenting X number of athletes in Y disciplines. And so all those were set out already. I'm saying this to illustrate to you that at the International Games Committee, we didn't do everything, and that there were various stakeholders who were taking care of different things. And so essentially at the International Games Committee, we were focused on providing the financial and logistical support for Ghana's participation. We had to find the money to buy the air tickets. The preparations that I talked to you about, we had to fund it. We had to find the money for those. Kitting and equipment, we had to find the monies to do those ones. The pre-games, where are the athletes sleeping? Which hotels are they sleeping? What foods are they eating? And we had to find the money to do those. Those were the major preoccupation of the International Games Committee. Correspondence between the games organizers and Team Ghana did not flow through the ministry. Some other stakeholders handled that. Some other stakeholders handled accreditations and visa. The ministry did not handle that. And again, the media, which brought us all the, if you may, the embarrassment, to borrow your word, they handled their own thing. I think that we should, and I also noticed that there's a lot of lack of understanding of how this thing works, and we should begin to maybe educate the general public. Yes, it's a sporting event, but it doesn't mean that the ministry is responsible for everything. For instance, the World Cup in France is happening tomorrow, starting tomorrow.
The Under-20 Women's World Cup, yes.
The Under-20 Women's World Cup is happening in France tomorrow. If Joy FM, Nathaniel and your group, you want to go and cover that game, you do not need the permission of the Ministry of Youth and Sports. You do not need facilitation. What you need to do is to seek for accreditation from the games organizers. And so you apply for that independently. You don't need to come to talk to me as a deputy minister or chairman of anything. You don't need to come to me. They give you an accreditation, and then you go and apply for your visa. The fact that you have an accreditation facilitates, or it makes your visa acquisition, the probability that you will obtain a visa higher, because the games organizers have now officially invited you to participate in the games and cover it. So once you have accreditation, the probability that you get a visa is higher. And so that was what happened, mostly, as far as my understanding is concerned. People applied to get visas from the games organizers directly. And the games organizers responded and gave them the accreditation. In fact, in the case of the Commonwealth Games, the games organizers themselves decided to facilitate the visa acquisitions on your behalf. Because I noticed that the Commonwealth Games, the Commonwealth Games Federation, they want to make the Commonwealth Games popular. So they had an interest in getting a lot of journalists to come and cover it. They want to compete with the Olympic Games, for instance. They want to compete with the FIFA World Cup. So there was a big move to liberalize it and get a lot of media people to attend. And so maybe they also, in that strategic thinking, they may have overlooked one or two things. But they've decided to facilitate the visa acquisition so that when you got an accreditation, it was almost 100% that you were going to get a visa. And they just were giving out the accreditation. So you apply, Nathaniel Atto from Joy FM, and they will ask you, are you coming alone? You say no. You want to bring Pius, you want to bring my brother Dennis, or you want to bring somebody. When Pius is not a journalist from Joy FM, that one is not the problem of the ministry. I mean, so there were some people who may have gone into Australia because they were registered as journalists. I do not know for a fact, even if, I mean, I've heard media reports that people went who claim to be journalists and who are not journalists. But the information available to me is that those people were supposed to be representing media houses, and so they went. As to whether they are journalists or not, I cannot speak to that. The police are handling that. Because I have met somebody who came back. He was returned. He was supposed to be returned because he was not a journalist. But my understanding is that he actually is a journalist, working for one radio station in Kumasi, I think Angel FM or so, but did not meet the specifications or the description of who a journalist is as far as the Australian Immigration and Border Officer is concerned. But we know here in Ghana that we have a lot of Twi-speaking radio stations and a lot of Twi-speaking journalists. And so if you go and to the Australian man, your English was suspect, I don't know, you don't have too much money on you, because as far as they are concerned, in their jurisdiction, journalists should have about $10,000. Journalists are middle-class people in Australia, but here in Ghana, we have quite a lot of struggling journalists as well. So if you go there and you may not have met their standards, and you are returned, that was what happened. And then rumors were being peddled, and a lot of misunderstanding.
And that brings me to my next question. So rumors were being, bandied around, and then you were caught in the center of all of this. Then came your, the decision for you to step aside. Tell me how you handled all of that, how you received all the information and all.
Yeah, the rumors were flying left and right, and we are in a country where rumor turns into a fact rather quickly. I mean, and everybody is talking about it, unsubstantiated, people unaware of what the situation is, but everybody's joined. We have to talk about it, and they're talking. So what's happening? I heard my name a few times, and I was worried. And I had cause to even speak about this matter within the holidays.
Yes, I heard a few of your interviews.
Yes, yeah. And I thought that it was going to die down, but it didn't die down. I mean, people fueled on it. For whatever reason, the politicians also got into the fray, and we added it to the list of supposed acts of corruption.
But these are but of course that is a ground that you play in, so you should be used to stuff like that.
Yeah. And I'll come to advise about how we should watch it, because I mean people's lives are involved, and yes, power is good. You want to come to power and so on and so forth, but maybe we all need to learn lessons. Okay, we will stay in power for a long time, the NPP. I mean, but one day we will make way for another party. When we do, maybe we should also watch how we treat people who come back into government after we have left government after several years in government. But so we all need to grow as a country. But I got a call from His Excellency explaining to me that he's concerned about all the reportage and he wants to have the matter investigated, and that he thought that I should step aside for the investigations to go on. And I welcomed his decision. In fact, I thought that it was first of all important that we investigate the matter.
When he called you, was he upset? Was he?
Well, he was disappointed. Honestly, he sounded disappointed to me. I was disappointed myself, so I was not surprised. And if you know the gentleman, if you know His Excellency the President, you know that he abhors immorality in public life. And having worked closely with him, even in opposition, I was one of his aides, if you recall. I have a fair knowledge of what the man's attitude towards these things are. So I noticed that he was disappointed, but I explained that I was not involved in any immoral or illegal activity, but I welcomed his decision to have the matter investigated.
Well said. The bit about frustration, I mean, the psychological bit and all of that. I mean, you knew you hadn't done anything, as you said, and the court of public opinion had already declared you guilty of wrongdoing. So how did your immediate family handle it, and what was running through your mind at that time, especially after the president called you and said, look, I want you to step aside as we, were you in a hurry for this thing to just be over and done with so that a point will be proven or something? What?
Well, those were my requests to His Excellency. I said that I wanted a quick and a fair investigation. I mean, I wanted this matter dealt with quickly. I was confident in my innocence. I knew that vindication only laid in the womb of time, but the longer it stayed, the longer the public continued to prosecute and persecute me, as it were. And so I wanted this matter to be dealt with quickly.
Tell me about...
I was worried about my family, my immediate family. I have a over 70-year-old mom who has not been feeling too fine. And so I suggested and I pleaded that I should be given a couple of hours to reach out to her first on my own and explain to her that, well, this has happened and I am going to have to step aside. I didn't want her to hear it over the radio. She was lying on the hospital bed. I didn't want the news to hit her on the hospital bed. I know my mother and I know what relationship that we have developed over the years. And so I know how she was going to take that. And so that was granted me. I took about an hour to rush to the hospital to explain to her that this was the situation and that I had to. And she prayed with me and said to me that if I am sure and I'm telling her the truth, that I am guilty, then she's not worried. In fact, that she encouraged me and was surprised. And I think she gave me strength to deal with it within the few times, because it was a vote of confidence that I was very crucial to me. And she spoke to my father and she spoke to my sisters and told them not to worry and that I was going to be fine. I had assured her that I wasn't a part of it. So my immediate family were very much with me. My sisters had to move. I live by myself in Accra. I'm still single. So I live by myself in Accra. So my sisters had to come. My family lives in Akosombo largely. And so they had to come. They moved in. I wish they had not, but they insisted. They wanted to come. and the love I felt, I mean, the concern was great. So it kept me moving, and they would pray with me every time, and I will assure them, I took them through the entire process. And knowing me for me, I mean, I'm not perfect, I know that. I have my shortcomings, but something like that, my family knows that I will not do. There are things that if you say Pius is guilty of, I mean, I'm sure my people will not hesitate to say this one, he can possibly do it. But to be involved in an illegality of that nature, I mean, giving visas to people and taking monies from them, it's alien to me. I did not even imagine the possibility of
okay. So this was your family, your immediate family. Tell me about those other comments from people who probably had already, decided on you that, look, this guy is a criminal, in quotes. Did you get any such direct?
I got, but what was also comforting was that there was a huge constituency out there who had watched me for the brief time I was in office and believed that I was not capable of doing something like that. And there were major voices of society. I mean, major religious and traditional leaders were speaking to me. Major political players from both divide were calling me to encourage me and to say to me that for the brief time that you have been at the ministry, we have followed your work, and it is surprising that something like that will be said about you. I mean, you remember the Nana Domahene,
yes,
the owner of Aduana Stars.
Yes.
Somebody I have no relationship with. I don't know him personally, but I heard him speak about this matter on national television, and had such kind words for me, and has said that he had watched me from afar and has spoken to a lot of people about their perception about me, and also asked for a quick resolution to the matter, and that the police should do the investigations. They should quicken the investigation and all that. And I was so touched. And I think that maybe I should use your forum. I haven't reached out to Nana just yet to even say thank you. But maybe I should use your platform now to say thank you to the Nanas of this world, and to the bishop, the Catholic bishop of my diocese, for instance, called me, and he also motivated me, and major church leaders and political leaders from my party, from even the NDC, called me to encourage me and to support me, and some prayed for me. I should say thank you to all of those. We were able to sail through it so it was not all condemnation. That's what I'm saying, that it was not all condemnation, and there was a huge constituency out there that believed that I couldn't have done the things that were being said about me.
If you just joined us, we're sharing time with the Deputy Minister for...
And of course,
yes,
my friends.
sure.
My friends. Harold, Davies, you know them.
Yeah.
My very good lawyer friend. They were all there. They were there. They were there.
I see. If you just joined us, we're here on the Joy Sports Link on Joy 99.7 FM, and also live on the Facebook wall with the Deputy Minister for Youth and Sports, Mr. Pius Enam Hajide. He was recently reinstated after being asked to step aside for an investigation to be concluded into the matter of a visa scandal which involved individuals posing as athletes and as journalists for the recently ended Commonwealth Games in Gold Coast, Australia. We'll be taking some of your thoughts. You're free to share them on the wall on Facebook, and also on WhatsApp is 0244340437, 0244340437. Now, Inko Joseph has sent this message, and he says, Honorable Pius's return is a lesson to all workers that honesty leads to vindication. Congrats, Honorable. This is from Inko Joseph. Thank you very much for that message. We'll try to retrieve some more and share with you as we go along. What other lesson have you learned regarding the work that you do and the office that you occupy, because there was a mass, recruitment of persons to travel. What major lesson have you learned with that regarding your work? Because travel is definitely a part of sport.
Well, I think the first lesson that I've learned is that we must educate the public on what the roles of the various stakeholders are. What is the ministry headquarters supposed to do in times like that? What is the National Sports Authority supposed to do? All the other stakeholders, if it were football, it would have been the GFA. If it were the Olympic Games, it would be the GOC. It was the Commonwealth Games, so it was the Ghana Commonwealth Association. What are their various roles? I think that we haven't educated the public enough about all of the roles of all of these stakeholders in the mix. I think that I've learned the lesson that we need to make the deliberate effort to educate people on what the roles are. Another lesson I have learned is to also take an interest in matters that may be remotely related to your work. It may not be your brief directly, but once it is remotely related, I think that you should have a global view. That's the sense I get, that when you sit on top of things, do not just focus on your brief, but maybe have a bird's eye view of the whole situation, and so that things that may not even directly relate to you, you also want to find out what is happening in those areas, because it is clear that at the end of the day, even if it doesn't concern you, when the chips go down, it will concern you. So I think that those matters also have to happen. And I think that we have to drive major reforms, especially when it comes to our international engagements. I mean, apart from these Commonwealth Games, like you're saying, a lot of traveling is involved in the sports area. I think that we need to end already. The Honorable Minister has announced, even before the Commonwealth Games, we had started pushing some reforms as far as travel of national teams and federations were concerned. I think that we should push hard on it and ensure a strict compliance with these regulations that the Honorable Minister, when we met the Federation some time ago, he announced a 10-point agenda reforms that we were pushing. I think that we need to make sure that we enforce those our regulations to the latter.
The president made the announcement at Congress in the Eastern region. He also mentioned Honorable Kwejoba Ajman. He has also been returned to his position as the board chair of the National Sports Authority. Have you seen the report? The report on this whole investigation?
I haven't seen the report.
Have you requested for it?
I have not requested for it.
Why?
Because my understanding is that a report will be made known or public as and when they are done and ready. My understanding is that there are aspects of the report that require further action, and that further action is being taken. And so we will let the report is rightly in the president's domain, and the police are doing some further work. And so I think that as at when His Excellency or the police administration believe that the report can be made public, it would be made public. But I am aware to the extent that the charges that have been laid against me were not substantiated, and that I was not found to have been engaged in any wrongdoing. Not just me, but even my brother and friend Kwejoba Ajman, the chairman of the governing board of the National Sports Authority.
Okay, there's a message here. Good afternoon. My problem is why the chairman of the National Sports Council, you mean National Sports Authority, is still at post. One of the ladies who was interdicted has been asking the same question over and over again. Is it just the normal politics? This is absurd. This is from Seneca Auli in Spintex. Okay, well, I don't know which lady you're talking about, but well, let's I mean, once we have who exactly is making that allegation, or that comment, we get to go into it better. Bob in a Shaiman says, Nat, the Honorable's story is a very sad one, and I thank God the committee has proven him innocent. Okay, 0244 340437 is our WhatsApp line. Remember, we're also live on Joy 99.7 FM. We're live on the wall. So also your comments are very much welcome. I will be glad to have your thoughts and your comments as we discuss, work at the Youth and Sports Ministry. Now, I'm sure before you always heard this description of the Sports Ministry as a very torrid ground, a very dangerous place where, and we saw major casualties in, some of the appointments that were made and how they went out of office and all. After experiencing the ministry, why do you think people have that perception about your place of work?
Well, there are several reasons. The first one would be that sports is the passion of this country, without a doubt. If anything unites this country more than anything, I think will be sports. And so that's critical. Everybody is interested in what's happening. And so, for instance, when the Black Stars is playing, you are going to have to deal with over how many coaches? Over 27 million coaches who are all too aware of the game. They know all the tactics and strategies that have to be employed in the selection of the national team. Everybody's involved. And so there's a lot of interest there. But I also think that there's a lot of lack of understanding. So everything happens, and it has to be the minister's head. Everything happens, it has to be somebody, a political appointee. But the sports is not governed that way. There are international federations, and governments are restricted in their dealing with the international federations. And mostly, there are other stakeholders that we play with, and we cannot do without them. And so we have to work in concert with them. And so I think that lack of understanding pushes people to quickly blame others for things that they themselves may not have been responsible for. That's also one thing I believe has also accounted for the high attrition rates of ministers. Number two also is that there have been some very bad practices, financial management practices over the years. The good thing is that under the leadership of the current minister, a lot of these have been reformed. That is why, if you notice, and I have to at this point say kudos to all the workers at the ministry, the chief director, all the directors we work with, and the people at the National Sports Authority. We all have come together to work in the best interest of sports development.
Of Ghana.
And I was going to give you an example of, before, national teams were paid over the counter and were paid cash.
Yes.
So the players will make a line, somebody will sit, I'm just trying to dramatize the situation, somebody will sit with some bag, and they will call player A and they will give you your money. We saw something happen in Brazil. People took their money and they were kissing it, okay? And so on and so forth. When we came, we have changed from that. The reform now is that we do not pay in cash. We pay through check to designated bank accounts. Again, we do not even pay in dollars. Winning bonuses may be quoted in dollars, but we do not pay dollars. We pay the CD equivalent.
Okay.
Because
that we know, okay. that has been articulated.
So at the end of the day, you notice that a lot of yearly, consistently, the ministry have over the years been cited in several reports of the Auditor General. But for the year past, 2017, the ministry was not cited for any such
Okay,
financial.
and that brings me to another issue. You know, when you mentioned the thing about good financial management and reforms, I'm drawn back to an interview that we played here on our platform, on television and on radio, where your boss, the minister, gave an assurance that before, especially the Black Stars play every game, be it friendly, be it competitive, or I mean, if it's a tournament or whatever, a budget will be made public. During the activity and after it, the spend will be made public and accounts will be rendered, and all of these will be of public record. Since he said that, we haven't seen any of such, none of that has been done.
No, some have been done. I have been responsible for at least doing two. The friendly matches that were played.
Which of them?
In the case of the one we played against Saudi Arabia, and in the case of the one we played against Iceland and in Japan.
Okay,
even.
but hold on. The Black Stars have played way more games than Saudi Arabia and Japan.
Yes, I was just going to explain that you see, we have stakeholders, we have the players to talk to.
Yes.
A critical part of our budgeting is allowances and bonuses. And a lot of the players are not too comfortable with making public those matters before the games, because what happens is that they get a lot of distraction, especially when the games are going to happen here in Ghana. I was deeply involved in negotiating a reduction of the bonuses from 10,000 to 5,000 US dollars. The honour minister started it, but he sent me off to Kumasi to finalize it. I took the team to see the Otumfuo Asantehene before we played our match against the first African Cup qualifier that we played and won about 5-0. I think we played against Ethiopia in Kumasi. It was during those times that we concluded negotiations on the reduction from $10,000 to $5,000, and the players were worried about how we are quick to put out this information. It gets their phones ringing. It gets people calling them and asking, because people think that these monies are available to them, and it's a major distraction.
Okay,
so,
but why? Why? Hold on, Pius. Why is it that you have not communicated this to the media? Because you see, it's important in the scheme of things that everybody gets to know that this is the reason why the ministry is not been consistent with giving out information concerning the budget and the spend, as well as whatever comes back, whatever we accrue in terms of our profits or whatever it is. It's important that you make it known as well.
Well, I think that I did until now. My understanding was that the minister promised that for the friendly matches, people were asking questions, and he said that for the friendly matches, whatever the agreement is, whatever contract that the GFA gets in with whichever FA we are playing with, those will be made public. And I can give you evidence that we have issued statements severally announcing what the terms of the various friendly games that we have. In the game against Japan, how much money was involved, we announced it. In the game against Iceland, the monies that were involved, we announced it. In the game against America and Mexico, what was involved, we announced it.
Away from so
those were for the friendlies, but
you've
for
done
the
that.
competitive ones,
you issue statements and all of that. But another thing, so this thing about the players and their worries about making information, all this information public, how are you managing it? Because people are interested. I mean, these are.
Well, I think that it is good practice that for the friendly matches we announce. But I also think that we have announced the winning bonus package already. So people know if we are going to play an AFCON, we know how much the players are going to get. If you are going to play a World Cup qualifier, we already know. I think that those are pretty much taken care of. So there's not too much problems with those. So we take it. I would take it that if we are playing an AFCON match, I mean, we already have a fair idea what the budget would be. The other ones will be the ancillary cost of air transportation and so on and so forth. If those are the ones that the people want to know about, we can still publish it. I don't it will be a decision for the minister to make. But personally, I don't see any problem with that, because I mean the air ticket prices are known. They are a matter of public record, so there's not too much of a problem with that. But the friendly match one, which was a big issue for the people for a long time, I mean, under the leadership of the current minister, we have shown consistency that anytime there's a friendly match, we have announced how much is involved.
Let's do a text message from Sami Inside, who says the president should publish the final report that exonerated the deputy minister together with the government white paper. This is an attempt to shield their own. The minister talks big, yet nothing to show for. This is Sami Inside Ho.
That cannot be true from Ho. We are just starting a beautiful sporting and youth facility in Ho. The minister was there to cut the sword. I was there myself just a couple of weeks ago. His Excellency the President was in Ho to inspect progress of work. So speaking from Ho, for somebody to say nothing
he should know what is happening. Well, we're coming to the issue of the projects in a bit.
Right.
Let's do this message from Rashid G.O. in Boko. He says, good afternoon. Welcome back to work, Honorable Deputy Minister. I think the investigations should be made public so that we the ordinary Ghanaians, because the Deputy Sports Minister was serving Ghana and not the presidency. I'm requesting for the investigation to be published to us. #Joy Sports. Okay, thank you very much for that message. All right, so I've asked that question already about the report, and he says that this is something that will be made public once it's ready. That's what Honorable Pius Hajide has told us here. Nathaniel, before his suspension and reinstatement, there was a report commissioned by the minister. What is their relationship? This is from Dikadi in Spintex. Okay.
My minister and I have a very good relationship. We have a good relationship.
Okay, let's talk about the projects. You've commissioned a number of the ministry has commissioned your minister has commissioned a number of projects. The Azuma Nelson complex, that in Ho that we're talking about, and all of that. In terms of giving proper timelines to all these architects and contractors and engineers and all, what kind of monitoring are you doing so we get this done on schedule?
Yeah, a lot of monitoring. In fact, there has been a committee that has been put together by the Honorable Minister, headed by a monitoring and evaluation coordinator that he has brought in with a team to ensure strict compliance with the deadlines. And we are doing this simultaneously in all 10 regions of the country at the same time. We are doing it in all of the regions. Every region has one project of that nature. It's a huge project, and if you saw the drawings, you would love it. It goes beyond even just a sporting facility. It's a youth resource center, actually, because you will see a counseling center that youth can receive counseling from those centers. There are canteens that people can go and have good food. And then there's a standard FIFA pitch, and there are athletic tracks around because it's not just football. We are interested in promoting all the other sporting disciplines. All and then there are multi-purpose courts that can serve basketball, volleyball, netball. I mean, a lot of other games. Depending on the marking at the time, the multi-purpose court can take a lot of these disciplines, and a spectator stand of at least 5,000.
Okay.
And so
let's go into the long-term plan for the full economic benefits that we're going to derive as a nation from these projects. We had the Africa Cup of Nations in 2008. Some 2 stadia were refurbished, 2 new ones were built. Several years on, we've had debate after debate. People have done advocacy after advocacy that we hand over the management of the place to private hands because they are not being profitable. We've seen issues at the National Sports Authority where they are even unable to pay their own electricity bills. They are not able to generate enough internal revenue. What is the plan for these other ones? Because even the bigger edifices are sitting there, and maintenance is even a problem.
Well, I believe in the capacity of the Honour Minister to take these policy decisions. He's listening, he's a listening minister, and so if I have any suggestion, I'm sure that I will offer to him, and I'm sure that he will take it. But these are policy decisions, and I am just a deputy minister, and I am there to support so that the vision of the Honour Minister, the vision of government can be achieved. And so these are maybe questions for the honorable minister.
Okay,
himself.
let me ask one that I guess will fall within your space. The relationship between your outfit and the Sports Authority. You know, a lot of the time you go to the Sports Authority, you say, why is this not being done? Why? And they say they are an agency under the ministry by the organogram, and we understand that. What is the level of support that the ministry has been giving the National Sports Authority? Because we sit back, we see what is going on, and you realize that the Sports Authority is weak in terms of empowering it to get things done.
Yes, I mean, to be frank with you, I have noticed that, and we should all help to develop the National Sports Authority. And before the exit, I mean, before these problems that befell all of us, and the then Director General had to proceed on his suspension as well, I'm aware that a lot of work was done on reform, and a document was prepared, a roadmap was made for us to bring the National Sports Authority up to speed. Yes, it is an agency under the ministry, but it is an agency with a board. It's an authority, actually. They have a certain amount of autonomy, and so they must become assertive themselves and do a lot of implementation. They are empowered by law to do regulation.
But on ground, that is not the case.
They have to. That's what I'm saying. That they have to get their acts
how do
together.
they do that when the agency, the umbrella agency is not empowering them to do that?
No,
I'll give you an example.
Okay.
We've been talking about travel here. Now, every season or every year, every sporting year, the Sports Authority, your office demands a program of activities to be given. So each association makes an input, and the Sports Authority's administration sends it to you. So it is based on that you facilitate. For instance, travel and participation in international competitions, which is a very key component of sports development. But you go in there, they say, and 90% of the time, associations cannot get the money to embark on travels, to take part in international competitions, and it always comes back to bite us because we go back to these major, multi-sport events and we don't perform.
Yes, you're right. But again, it's a question of availability of resources. We do not have all the money that we have to do all the things that we would have loved to do. So we have to prioritize. And that is why sometimes we have to choose which international sports engagement we have to participate in. We are not in the position to participate in all. We do not have the kind of resources as a government. And for that matter, the central government, the ministry. But what I'm saying is that the National Sports Authority has to also find some creative ways of raking in some revenue. Because if we all just sit and are expecting the Minister of Finance to make transfers to us, we are a developing country, competing demands. I mean, we are all competing over the same small national cake that we have. And so we will not get all the money that we need. But if the National Sports Authority becomes more assertive, if they become more creative, if they become a little more independent, as has been envisioned in the law, that gives them a certain level of autonomy. And of course, the minister may issue policy direction and the board shall comply. Okay? It tells you that the minister is not directly involved in the day-to-day administration of the National Sports Authority, but on issues of policy, he may give policy direction, and that one they are compelled to comply. But beyond that, the management of sports in this country is legally vested in the NSA. And so I would think that it is high time we encourage agencies to stop making excuses, and that they should bring themselves up to speed and do what already the law has given them the power to do. They are supposed to do regulation, for instance, okay? And there are several gyms across this country that are not regulated. What is the minimum standard of an instructor at a gym? I don't intend to take us back, and I don't know the gentleman. I'm sure he's a very competent gym instructor, but His Excellency the former Vice President was in a gym and something happened. We all know, okay? I'm saying that I believe that gym, because of course, even listening to the names that go to that gym, I can take it for granted, sitting where I'm sitting right now, that the gym instructor is properly qualified. But beyond that, there are several other gyms. What are the regulations that we have put into it? Because it falls directly under the domain of sports development, the gym work. It falls directly under the hotels. All of them have the gyms. Are the equipments up to speed? Do they have good equipment? Are the instructors properly equipped with the proper technology and strategy and know-how? Are they developing bodies? Are they not? Are they killing us slowly or what?
I get you there, but you are once again the same thing. The relationship. You are the mother body. If they are not doing it, are you cracking the whip? Are you whipping them into line?
We are. That's why I said to you that before all the problems that appear to have taken us a little back, we had developed a roadmap. We are just coming back. We are settling in now, after the Australia, the GFA problem. And so there was a little distraction. Honestly speaking, I feel distracted. I can believe that a lot more people were also may have felt distracted. But the water is settling, water is finding its level, and we are going to get back to our original plan. And we are going to assist the National Sports Authority to do what it has to do. And by talking about raking in revenue, because a lot of the federations don't travel because there's no money, I'm saying that this thing that I was just describing to you about regulation, about licensing, can even generate some funding for the National Sports Authority to be able to do some of these things.
Let's talk about the Ghana football situation. As we speak, there's a process ongoing by the government that you represent and work for to dissolve the Ghana FA as a body. We all know what has happened. Let's rewind a little bit. You watched the documentary, number 12? You did?
Yeah, portions of it, yes.
You didn't watch the full documentary?
I didn't watch the full documentary.
Is there any reason why?
Well, it just got scandalous at a point, and I was getting too angry to continue to watch. I just shut my laptop.
Okay, you had it on your laptop?
I did.
How early?
I think a day or two after it was premiered. I got somebody send it to me.
Okay. Football definitely is the main block in terms of what you administer when it comes to sports, the variety of sporting disciplines. And like you said, you say that you are distracted. You've admitted that it's a distracting situation. What do you make of all of this? I mean, we now have a two-man committee, a liaison team that are running the national teams, and we have an Africa Cup of Nations qualifier coming up next month. Our league, we don't know what's going to happen eventually. What do you make of all of this?
Well, I mean, it's unfortunate. Nobody would have wished for this, but we were where we are, and we have to deal with it. But Nat, let me just say this, that we had heard rumors about bribery in our league, match fixing, involving referees and so on and so forth. These were reported. They were even some known football administrators have had cause to come publicly to talk about some of these things. But all the time, the issue of evidence arose, and people were like, okay, if you say this, where is the evidence, and so on and so forth. We were worried. As a ministry, we didn't sit unconcerned. We were worried. We discussed it. The Honorable Minister instructed that we should get the matter properly investigated. And so I remember in November of last year, I wrote to the National Bureau of Investigations, the BNI, to do sting operations, do an overt undercover investigations into this matter. So we also wanted to get the evidence. Because, you know, in this game of in this thing, people talk about bribery and corruption and so on and so forth. They border on criminality. You know that the name of the game is evidence. Even if not for prosecution purposes, you only even just wanted to name and shame. The evidence was crucial. And I am not, I don't know how to do investigations of that nature and so on and so forth. The BNI, they are properly mandated by law and competent to do this work. And so we wrote to them. I wrote a letter on the instructions of the Honourable Minister to the BNI to have these matters investigated so that we can establish some evidence. So it cannot be true that government heard of these rumors and we didn't do anything about it. No. Anas may have started this project 2 years before or a year before, and so maybe his ended quicker than what maybe government tried to do and put a package together. I'm not going to get into style or intent or motivation. What I saw on TV, or on my laptop, and what was premiered on TV was disheartening. And so drastic action has to be taken. The people's confidence in the football had gone. There was little credibility. And as a government responsible for creating the environment, the conducive environment for footballing, and not just footballing, sports in general, I think that it was responsible that government takes drastic action to win back the people's confidence in the game and to regain the credibility to the sport.
Okay, the drastic action we've seen, and intentions have been made clear. But what is the response to those who are also criticizing this move? That there is a whole mass of people, and I refer to an interview that the Aduana Stars CEO granted us a few weeks ago, where he said, yes, you have uncovered a certain amount of wrongdoing. It doesn't mean that the whole body is corrupt, because he looks at himself as an executive committee member, and nobody has found anything wrong with him. So why then say you are dissolving the whole body? Because these are people who have placed their hearts, their resources, several years of sacrifice into this game. And now everybody is just left hanging. What would you say to that as well?
Well, it's a difficult one. I can appreciate where somebody like that would be coming from.
Yes, Mr. Albert Kome,
yes,
the CEO of Aduana Stars. Yeah,
I can appreciate where he's coming from. But I will encourage that whatever challenges people like Mr. Kome have, they should come to the ministry and speak to us about what they see as the alternative measures that can be taken, and we can listen. But I think that it was responsible that government took drastic measures to win back the people's confidence and to bring back integrity into the game. Okay. But you see, this thing...
Just before we go on...
You see, this thing about consolidated bank, I'm sure if you went into the other 5 banks, there are several other people in that bank who may have been doing the right things and playing by the book and everything. But when the chips got down, Beige Bank, Construction Bank, and so on and so forth, the whole bank, the system has to come to an end. The system has to collapse. That does not mean that every and all players in the industry were guilty of something. Maybe one or two people were, but the whole system had to come.
Point well made. Let's take a listen to Mr. Albert Kome, what I was referring to earlier, on his thoughts and his frustrations about, the decisions that have been taken by government. He spoke to, Joy Sports earlier, some weeks back.
When Amati went to deal in cocaine and was caught and jailed, did we therefore deduce that then parliamentarians are all cocaine dealers? Did we dissolve them? Those are the issues that we're looking at. Now, I think the dissolution is not the answer to this. Anas have done this issue, work at other sectors. You understand? Did they dissolve the place? Now, Ghana Football Association is under National Sports Authority. The whole Director General was cited. 6 other members were cited. Have they dissolved the place? I have heard that now the Deputy Minister has been reinstated. What went on? They investigated themselves. Is that not it? So please, you see, when you sit down and some of us that have decided to go the hard way by not, it's not easy to go to meetings and people are living affluence and you are trying to keep your descendant for you to be collective. You see, it hurts me so much. If they had even taken something to hit me, I would have preferred it. So, you see, as I sit down, let me tell you, I don't love football again. I'm doing it because I'm a distance. I don't have that, the kind of love, the kind of distance that I don't have it. I will not lie. And don't be surprised.
So if finally the dissolution happens, what are you going to do?
Well, we'll move on in life. If I have regretted leaving the classroom. I'm telling you. Because when I was teacher, I had a peaceful life. Please, you know what? I am not comfortable with the politician.
99.7 FM.
Okay, so the very candid words of Albert Kome. He's the CEO of Aduana Stars. Previously, he served Accra Arts Vocus, their PRO. There's a message here that says, I'm listening and touched by his story. He just has to be mindful in carrying out his mandate and also the people around him. This is from Efia. Efia, thank you for your message. Yeah, you heard him.
Yes, I heard Mr. Comey. I've said that I can appreciate where he's coming from, and I'm sure that there are people in the Beige Bank, the Bank of Construction, the Sovereign Bank, and so on and so forth, who will be saying that. But I mean, do we have to pay for the misbehavior or lack of bad judgment for one or two of our people and so on and so forth? So I can appreciate that. And I've said that we are open to listen to what suggestions that one has. And so maybe Mr. Kome can just come to the ministry and we can have a discussion about the way forward. But there are a few inaccuracies in what he said. And if that is the basis for his assertions, then once the bases are wrong, then his conclusion would definitely be faulty. I mean, we did not investigate ourselves. He said that the deputy minister has been reinstated. What did they do? They investigated themselves. No, we did not investigate ourselves. The system worked. The police investigated us. And trust you me, if I was found guilty, the system would have worked. I would have been prosecuted. I would have lost my job. Okay, that is how systems work. And so, if you have a problem, you apply the law. I mean, does the state have the power to do what it's doing? Is it legal? It is legal. If you disagree, there is a platform that you can litigate these matters, i.e. the courts. And so, let us allow the systems to work. At the same time, I believe that we can walk and chew gum at the same time. I'm saying that, yes, we are where we are, but if there is, in the mind of Mr. Kome, a more desirable approach, let us hear the alternative, and I'm sure that it will be considered by whoever has to consider these matters.
Live here on Joy 99.7 FM on the Joy Sports link, and of course we're streaming live on our Facebook wall as well. You are free to join us with your messages. Very shortly we'll also activate the phone line so that you can join us with your thoughts. In the meantime, it's 0244 340437 on WhatsApp. You can join us there and articulate your thoughts. Let's talk about the liaison committee and the work done so far. What do you make of the work they've done so far? Dr. Kofi Amoah, Coach Otia Kenting, and Dan Kwekuyebwe, the spokesperson.
Well, to be frank with you, I haven't met with the liaison team upon resumption of duty. I believe that I will do that soon. But even when I was away, watching from afar, I think that they have what it takes to do a good job. My understanding is that they have interim management, as it were, of our national and international engagements. The princesses are tomorrow beginning their campaign for gold in the under-20 Women's Football World Cup in France. Today, the Black Satellites are engaging also in Cape Coast, and so on and so forth. And so far, they have shown that they have what it takes. Of course, I get the sense they have the support of the honourable minister and government, and so they should go ahead and do what they have to do. They have a job to the country, and so they should do that. So far, I believe that they have shown capacity to do what has to be done in the interim, whilst we look for a quick resolution to the problem and finding a lasting solution to this problem. In the meantime, I think that so far they have done quite commendable.
Let's talk about Mr. Kwesi Nyantakyi, who was at the center of all of this. He has lost his positions in international football. He's lost his position here and all of that. When was the last time you had a conversation with him?
It's been long. I think that my suspension preceded his resignation. So maybe because I got on suspension, we were not speaking as regularly as we used to speak when I was still at post and he was a GFA president. Then I would reach him almost every week to get one information or issue one instruction or the other. So we were speaking quite frequently. But then I got suspended, and then I didn't have the locals anymore to engage with him, so we were no longer speaking before this matter came. But subsequently, after his resignation, we spoke. I called him to sympathize with him and empathize with him and to encourage him that, I believe that these were difficult moments, but they are with us and we have to find a way to
you're saying that you didn't watch the full video, and I watched the documentary. The part where Mr. Nyantakyi, traveled, met these people and collected money was at the end. Have you seen that portion of the documentary? Have you seen that portion?
I have a sense of it. I haven't, like I said to you, I couldn't watch the entire. I got angry. I was getting sad. I was mad. And I was getting very angry. So I didn't finish the video. But I have a sense. People have watched it. They have told me. I think even verbatim what it is. So I have a sense what it is that you're saying.
So based on what you saw, what did you say in relation to that bit of what you saw to him? You've talked about the bit where you empathized with him and all. Yes, understood. But you are saying that what you saw generally in the little bit that the little that you saw in the documentary angered you. So what about this one? What was your reaction? Because you were told about what he did. Did you get angry at what he did as well?
Yes, I was.
Have you told him? Have you told him?
Oh, yes. Sure. Nat, I have frank discussions, and I will not tell you word for word what I said, but I expressed my serious indignation. You couldn't. I believe that my words were that you couldn't have done that, and he said, well, I don't want to get into those, but it was unfortunate. Level of indiscretion extremely high. I don't know what would make anybody, but I think that we can let it be now. I don't want to get angry just yet. I have another meeting, my brother.
Well, it's just about 20 minutes to the top of the hour, 2 p.m., where we'll wrap up. We'll be getting into your phone calls in a bit. But there's also a bit of boxing to discuss here. There's Isaac Dogbe. He hosted a news conference yesterday, and he's been talking about his upcoming defense, and that will be his first defense of the WBO Super Bantamweight title. Now, he will go up against his Japanese opponent, and he looks forward to performing a great deal. Let's just quickly take a listen to him. We'll also take a listen to Richard Comey, who is an IBF title contender. After that, we'll come to the Deputy Minister to tell us what kind of support is being given to the sport of boxing, which has given ample proof of bringing Ghana great glory. Overall, other sporting disciplines. Let's take a listen to WBO Super Bantamweight champion Isaac Dogbe.
I can sit here and tell you everything that I'm going to do this to Otake. I'm going to knock him out, which I am going to knock him out. There's no doubt about that. You can't say nothing away from Hidinori Otake. He's an avoided fighter by many champions. 36 fights.
Joy 99.7 FM.
37 years old, 14 KOs, 2 losses, 3 draws. Hasn't lost a fight in 4 years. 9 fights in 4 years. 5 of them coming by way of knockouts. So you have to understand the guy is a compact fighter. He's strong. We are not taking him lightly. But the thing with us is that the people that many champions are willing to avoid, those are the people we want to fight. I believe that the battle is always the Lord. It's always the Lord's. And the places that people, ordinary men, aren't willing to go, that's where we want to be. Because once we're able to go out to that place and establish our authority in that place, and let the people understand and to know that we are a different breed, that wherever we go, we take control, we take charge of that place. I believe that I was born to overcome adversity. All the challenges I face in my life, all the opponents I face, they've all been
Joy 99.7 FM.
People that, opponents that people have always said, I am too young to fight them. It's too early for me in my career to fight these people. A lot of people criticize my father, for putting me against these sort of people. But always we have risen against
Joy 99.7 FM.
Those adversities. So Otake, he's in real trouble. I know that. But we don't take him lightly, like I said.
That's Isaac Dogbe, the WBO Super Bantamweight champion, and he has a defense in a few weeks' time against Hidenori Otake. He's Japanese, and he has great experience. Let's break in. Let's do a little bit of football as well and bring updates here, where the national under-17, the national under-20 team, the men's team, is playing Benin in a qualifier for the African Youth Championship. Now, that game will be played at 3 p.m. at the Cape Coast Stadium. Abigail Sena Susu is our correspondent there, and she will bring us up to speed on happenings in Cape Coast. Abigail, thank you for your time. Tell us what's happening in Cape Coast ahead of this game.
Good afternoon to you and your listeners. We are at the Cape Coast Stadium, like you said earlier. We are here to cover the game between Ghana and Benin for the African Youth Qualifiers. And we hope that Ghana can go past Benin and then move on to the next stage. Like Coach Jimmy Kobler said, it's not going to be easy, and I've seen both teams arrive. And I tell you what, the Beninois are so much prepared and ready for this game. And the Black Stars equally are not leaving anything to chance. We are just hoping that in the next 1.5 hours that the game should start, and people should open their numbers. I'm sorry, but the number of people that are here, if you could give me like 2 or 3 minutes, I could literally count everyone here. So it's not that encouraging here. We're just waiting to see what happens by 3 p.m. And just colleagues of the media are also here to support the team the best as we can. But like I said, both teams have arrived, and very soon they should be on the pitch to warm up, and then subsequently we could receive what will happen in the next 90 minutes.
Abigail, thank you very much. We'll be doing some more as we go along. Thank you so much. So Abigail Sena Susu is our correspondent there at the game, and Ghana's under-20 men's team is getting ready for the African Youth Championship, a qualifier against Benin this afternoon. Of course, the Black Princesses are also far away in France, getting ready for their opening game against the hosts. That surely is going to be a very tight one. The Deputy Minister has also made mention of the amount of support being given them. Let's quickly go back to boxing and talk to Richard Comey. He is the IBF's #1 contender in the lightweight division, and recently the International Boxing Federation, IBF, gave gave an order to the current champion, Mikey Garcia, to fight Richard Comey. So what then happens is if he decides not to fight, he has to relinquish the title. But Richard Comey is also getting himself ready for a major assignment later today, and that obviously will be a warm-up fight, and that should get him very ready for his upcoming challenge. Now, he will be fighting in the United States of America, and I want Richard to just tell all of us how he's getting himself ready for this very major challenge this later today in the United States of America.
Yeah, thank you. The preparation has been great. I've been to Dominican Republic. I've been sparring. You know, I was scheduled to fight on 28th, but due to some reasons, we'll push back to 4 gate. So I'm looking straight. You know, I feel good. You know, my body is good, and you know, I just wanna go in there, listen to my corner, and then get the work done. You know, I'm hoping to get it done as early as possible because there's no pay for overtime. And also, I'd like to thank all my fans back home in Ghana. Man, this is the fight. This is one fight between me and fighting for the. This is one fight between me and the world title. So I ask for their prayers, and you know they shouldn't give up on me, and they should keep praying for me. And most definitely, in the near future or maybe before the year ends, I'm looking at bringing the world title back to Ghana one more time. You know, so this is what I have to tell them, and also they shouldn't panic. I'm going there to win. 99.7 FM. You know, if God give me the strength, or God give me what like I've been praying for, then this fight is not gonna take long. Maybe within the first 4 rounds, yeah, it should be done. Thank you very much.
Thank you to Richard Comey. So he spoke to me a few hours earlier. You know, this is fight day. And, you know, I'm very grateful for, you know, his making time to speak to us, you know, ahead of this fight against Yardley Armenta Cruz. And he's a journeyman with 24 wins and 10 losses coming in to test Comey and his pulse ahead of getting himself ready for that major world title opportunity. There's a message here that says, "Good afternoon, Nat. I want to ask Albert Comey his real motive for leaving Hearts of Oak to be in the helm of Adriana Stars." Okay. I have decided not to read the very last part of it because I think it's a bit uncomplimentary. And you're saying now he's crying foul. This is Ni in La. Okay, Ni, thank you anyway for your message, but I decided not to read the last part of your message. Okay, now, kindly ask the Deputy Minister, is he confident in the Ghana police that they will actually fish out those who attempted to traffic people into Australia under the guise of being journalists? Okay. This is a message not signed. Please make sure to sign the messages when you, you know, you send them. Okay, so question to you from the texter.
Yes, I believe in our systems. We must, like Obama admonished us some time back, allow our systems to grow. There is no reason why the police would not investigate this matter properly and deal with whoever has to be dealt with. I was vigorously interrogated. I was properly investigated. So I believe that they will do the same for all others.
0302-216-541. 0302-216-541. That's the number. Get through to us. Let's talk our sports development. The Deputy Minister is here with us. His first major conversation after returning to work. His first major media conversation after returning to work following being asked to step aside. 0302-216-541. Okay, you heard the two boxers, but there's a little concern on their side as well. I followed Dogbe's training camp ahead of, you know, participating in the world title fight that got him the title. I didn't see much of the ministry giving him that moral support and that backing. What happened?
Well, maybe quite unknown to you, the ministry and the government were solidly behind Dogbe in his last title fight.
Let's make the distinction here. I'm not talking about his last eliminator, which was staged here in Accra. I'm talking about the title proper in the US.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
That one. There was massive support from the government establishment towards him. The Honorable Minister is clear in his mind that we have to come behind our boxers even when they do professional boxing. Some have advocated that when you do professional boxing,
the money goes into your pocket.
Goes into your pocket. So
but of course, the honor comes to the nation,
and that's the minister's position. And the minister has reviewed history and has said that former boxers who won us glory, even professionally, at the time, were supported by the state. Well, times have changed. Needs have become competing, and we are a developing country. It is all a question of availability of resources. We need to make more money from our sports, and sports does have the capacity to rake in money. We just have to find the models the best practice models that bring in the resources that we should have. And that's why we are quite keen on discussions about a sports fund that makes money available.
We'll get into that in a bit. Let me pick this call, not to interrupt you. There's a very interesting bit I also want to bring in. Good afternoon, Dodu in Isiakwa. Good afternoon. Yeah. Can you lower the volume on your radio set, please? We're getting great feedback. Please go ahead as well. Go ahead.
I'm happy for the Honorable Deputy Minister of Sports, Pius Enamajide, but I also want to ask him, what is he doing about what is the sports ministry doing about the disabled sport, the disability? Because most of us, we the blind people, we the cripples, we those who are, impaired. When we want to do sports, always the ministry doesn't mind us. They don't mind us. They don't even care about us. But we do well than the able people.
Thank you. Great question he's asked. So we'll mix it up with the bit of our boxing. So he's talking about disabled sports. So finish it quickly so that we can go to that point.
Yes. So to just say the record straight, we came solidly behind our boxer. I was explaining to you that the minister, if he had his way and if there was the money available, we would make it available to support all of our boxers who are doing even professional boxing, even though some have argued that the money goes into their pocket. That notwithstanding, the little that we can do, we continue to do.
Have you guys thought of doing something substantial for him? Because, for instance, I remember, Joshua Clottey and Agbeko became champions when President Kufuor was in power. He gave them vehicles. Have you thought of anything along those lines?
Well, I know that some monies have been given in the past. But
to Dogbe's camp?
Yes. Both from the ministry and from the presidency as well. This is the government establishment. And so, we can do more. We are hopeful that we can get a panacea to the funding challenge when we have our sports fund and there is money. Then we can allocate and so on and so forth. That's why we are calling for the support of everybody so that we all come together and develop that sports fund that will become the well that feeds and supports
all the other sporting disciplines.
And that again would also go for the sports, the
disabled sports.
Disabled sports. And our commitment, and I'm sure my brother knows that, our commitment, the minister's commitment to disabled sports is high. Sometimes we are confronted because of availability of resources. But, for instance, in the Commonwealth Games, we had to insist that we were going to take disabled to the games. So we had to fly some of the athletes, Mr. Asso, for instance, and co, all the way to Brazil for their classification.
Okay.
This was not original.
Let me hold you there again. There's a call on the line. We've kept him for some time. Tofik in Tamale, sorry for keeping you that long. Please go ahead.
Sir, I want to appreciate what our Deputy Minister is telling us. But, sir, I want him to make this thing clear to us. We are football people and we like football. Now, we want him to tell us what is the level of the case in the court about our football issues. We want to get it clear because it's long overdue.
Thank you very much. Perhaps?
I know that the matter is in court, and I leave the rest for the lawyers to.
Yeah. Okay. All right. 0302-216-541. 0302-216-541. Let me get back on the phone line. Hello, good afternoon.
Yes, sir. No, good afternoon.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Yes, I'm from
Thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's a great job that you are doing. At a point in time, you need from the horse's own mouth, because I was saying that a lot of stories were good about him. I want to ask, is it because of the relationship between the ministry and the FA? That's why sometimes they always have something bad to hear from the minister. And for now, what are they doing so that they can create a better relationship between the ministry and the VFA, so that they can have one mind to work for that kind of political influence, and also the mafia game that we always used to hear.
Okay. He's talking about a relationship with the Ghana FA and, yeah.
I think that by the time that the reforms bear fruition, when they come to fruition, I'm sure that his fears would have been allayed. We are in the process to reform the footballing and sporting environment in this country. We just ask for a little more time and support from the people so that we can sort things out.
Tony is reaching us from Bolga. Tony, good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon. Let me welcome the Deputy Minister back to his office, IND. I, in fact, congratulate him on his successful return. The issue is that he will have to know the type of ministry or the kind of ministry he is really working. We've all known what really happens or happened today. He just needs to be very careful with whoever. Yes, but with the one Richard Comey is fighting tonight, from his record, you said he has 10 losses. Today is going to be his 11th loss. I assure him that Richard Comey will carry the day. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you very much. I like the enthusiasm in your voice. Okay, so we're also told, that the suspended Director General of the Sports Authority had a lot going on, in terms of reforming, until that unfortunate incident got everybody, thrown out. Okay, so I think that this is where we'd have to wrap it up. Unfortunately, when the conversation gets a little more interesting, we get this happening to us all the time. But it's been great having you here, and thank you very much for honoring the invitation finally.
Matt, it's been a pleasure being here.
Yes.
I wish I'd come earlier. But I can assure you that when next I am invited, I'll try to squeeze time. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. And, today happens to be a very good day for us here at Joy Sports. So there's someone here at Joy Sports who loves Shatta Wale to bits. Shatta Wale will be here in the studio in a bit with the entertainment team. So the person is called Ayi, A-Y-I. Ayi, he's a girl boy like myself. Ayi, congratulations on this big day in your life. Congratulations. We are all there to support you. Ayi, congratulations once again. And also, Erasto Sasare Donko is getting married today. Charlie, more of the weddings. Let them happen. Anyway, Pius, when are you also getting married? Well, the laughter just answers everything, doesn't it? So, Honorable Pius Enam Hajide, my guest today on the Joy Sports Link. I trust you've enjoyed yourselves. Thank you very much to Derek, to Jeff, and also to Benedict, my sitting producers for today. Araba Kumsin, in a nice light blue denim dress, is standing right in front of me. We're going for Ayi's wedding together. Ayi. As for that clue, we get to answer about all of those things later on. Hey, happy birthday to you, my good friend Eja Kobna Bakna. Eja Bakna, happy blessed birthday to you. We should celebrate later today, eh? Happy birthday to you, my brother, the man, the CEO of our Ahara Studios. All right, so Joy Headline News at 2 is next. Well, my name is Nathaniel Atto, and I have love for sport.
And I'm Araba Kumsin. It's 2 o'clock. Joy Headline News coming up.